would anyway like to welcome you to this SME Crisis Response webinar called Cyberattacks and how to make sure that your SMEs can be defended. Today, our Confederation European Entrepreneurs CEA-PME, which represents 2.1 million enterprises in Europe, voluntarily organized from practically all member states. We would like to talk about the current status of risk for companies and institutions in Europe, for possible or probable or already ongoing cyber attacks on companies and institutions, and we would like to then also share with you some practical information and hints and experience how this can be tackled. We have here today, it's my pleasure to present to you the speakers. There is once Bryce Cortinhas of the European Air Group. He's in charge of cybersecurity and IT security of this institution. There is Marius Thielmann of the German Transfer Office for cybersecurity for the German small medium-sized enterprises, and Alvaro Garcia of the S2 group, from Grupo S2 from Spain. Hello, thank you very much for joining us. Another speaker and partner of European Entrepreneurs is Marc Dönges of the German SME Association BVMW. That is a member of our confederation in Germany, representing in Germany more than 900,000 companies. And Marc is the deputy head of the SME Digital Center in Berlin, which is run by BVMW together with other institutions. And they also work very often and very much on cybersecurity, and especially together with us as European Entrepreneurs and other three partners, that is Confapi from Italy, the Austrian Business Association ÖGV from Austria, and the University of Tor Vergata in Rome. We implement currently together a project called Data Skills for SMEs, which offers orientation in on training in different data-related and digital-related topics like cybersecurity, like online sales and digital marketing, like customer relationship management, and like paperless office, cloud computing. In all these fields, we are offering on our project website a series of information, and Marc will present that we have put together recently on cybersecurity. So I would now start immediately to hear the presentations and inputs from our colleagues. Thank you very much, Bryce Cortinhas. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Stefan. Thank you very much. Well, just to make clear to everyone listening to us that all the expressions, all the opinions I'm going to express here are my personal opinion. I am talking on behalf of my organization. So, as one said that, well, now we are seeing, as we can see in the different alerts we're receiving from the thirds, for example, the US third, that there is going to be can be an increase of ransomware. That's the main threat we are facing here let me share with you here in the chat two alerts that they were shared by the US third. The problem we are facing is that we have two critical vulnerabilities that are still a lot in play. That is the one called printer nightmare, that basically use the printer service of Microsoft server and Windows to gain access to the computers. And also we have the famous also Log4j vulnerability, that is a library that is used for a lot of application and devices for logging purposes. And we are seeing that we receive an alert that this can be used, let me share it here in the chat, to gain access and to install ransomware. So, for example, one of the ransomware we are seeing is one of the most famous now is Conti. And they, as we can see in the US third alert, they are targeting companies that because so we can expect, as I said, ransomware is the main threat. What we can do to mitigate, what mitigation measures we can take to avoid the ransomware and defense of ransomware, because we know it's very devastating for a company to have all their files encrypted. Well, first of all, we need to avoid what they call, personnel call, digital Diogenes syndrome. I mean, the first thing we need to make sure is that we only have in our computers and in our servers the software we really need and we really use. With that, I refer also to review all the configuration, disable all the services we don't use. For example, in a paperless company, make no sense to have the service of the printer enabled. That will help a lot. Review the default configuration of all the network devices. Is one thing what is called, all vendors has one thing is called best practices configuration. Also, I like to warn people about IP version 6, the default configuration in the network devices of IP version 6, because the difference between IP version 4 is that for IP version 4 we have a lot of reputational list, we have a lot of technology, but IP version 6 security related is quite new. There is no much reputation list as with IPv version 4. A lot of devices by default have allow or enable IP version 6. So I will encourage companies and people to review the configuration of their network devices to disable if they don't use IP version 6, or to configure in a secure way if they
Sorry,
need to.
Bryce, if I interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally ignorant in informatics. What is IP version 4 and 6?
So yeah, let me explain you. Sorry for that. So basically, IP version 4 is the original IP address. We all know this 192.168.0.1, for example, that go from 0 to 255. The problem is the world ran out of IPs because it's a limited number. When they created, they didn't thought that every device will have a network interface. So we ran out of the number of IPs. And for the reason they developed IP version 6, that is a new version that has much more numbers. Let me tell you, let me check on internet how many addresses can be, but I think it's 340 trillion IP addresses, or 3.4. Let me put, it's a very big number. 3.4 plus 10 elevated 38. So it's 3 trillions and trillions and trillions. And that's the problem of IPv4, that is much more limited. So all the new devices, for example, IPv4 is only almost 4.3 billions. This is the number of IPv4 we can have in the world. So the problem is now the world ran out of IPs and they moved to IP version 6. And the problem is, as you mentioned, not too many people know about it yet in the general public. By default, the devices that are capable with IPv6, IPv6 is enabled. And if not configured properly, it's a very easy way to enter. I don't know if it makes sense. So let me show you how IPv6 look like.
You can share your screen if you want.
No, it's in Wikipedia. For example, this is a IPv6. Let me show you. This is an IP version 6 in the chat, how it look like. And this is how a normal IP look like, IP version 4.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And
the user, what can a user do to make that sure, to change that?
For example, if you go to network properties in your Windows machine, you will see that you can disable IP version 6. You will see in the list of capabilities your network device has. You will see IP version 4, IP version 6, and you can just click disable.
Okay.
IP version 6 if you are not using it. Also in your routers at home, you will see an option to configure IP version 6. And if you don't really use it, it's better to disable. Because as I said, security, there is not as much reputation list of IPs like the previous version, the 4. I don't know if that makes sense.
So I write in the chat. So we should use IP version 6 like this kind of.
No, this is how this is IP version 6. That's what it looks like.
We should not use.
Now, the thing is, if you don't use IP version 6, you should disable it. Basically, my point is, in IT, in the networking, it's better to disable the things that you don't use, so they don't use it against you. I don't know if
Okay.
Because the problem of IP version 6 is that there are not, the security is not as developed as with IP version 4. So if you don't know how to configure properly the security of a network with IP version 6, it's better for you to disable. That's my point. If you don't need it, obviously.
Okay. Sorry, for these questions, but
no worries. Feel free to ask. I know it's not a very friendly subject. So another thing that I will recommend people is to always have install the last software patches and hardware patches, because sometimes people forget. They update Windows, but sometimes they forget that for example, the hardware components also has firmware updates and BIOS updates. So it's very important to keep everything updated. For example, Microsoft release the monthly updates the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time and 8 p.m. in Central European Time. That means from yesterday 7 p.m., Microsoft already fixed a lot of critical vulnerabilities, and since 7 p.m. yesterday, every minute that passed without you updating your computer is a security risk or your servers. This is called Patch Tuesday because mainly all the vendors use this second day of the month to release all the updates, so the IT guys come updating all together at once instead of interrupting people working. So I will strongly recommend people to keep updated. That's the most important thing, to keep all the software updated, because as I said, sometimes we install software for one-time purpose and then we forgot it's installed, and this software then have a vulnerability, we don't patch it, and that becomes a problem. Also, regarding to the login procedures, I think now in the cybersecurity world, everyone's agree that multi-factor authentication make a real difference. Having a second factor makes a real difference in security. And also recommended to have passwords at minimum long 14 characters already. But double factor is the key. And if you read, for example, the US CERT reports, all of them agree that one of the most important key to stop a cyber attack is to have double factor authentication. Also, I will recommend to have a periodically security audit. If you have an IT team, there is free tools, and there are also commercial tools that have a trial period when you can use as a full version during, I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. And it's very good to do an audit because these apps are very specialized on tell you what devices you have vulnerabilities because they are not properly patched or properly updated, and what configuration can become a problem for you. It's very important, as I said, to review the default configuration of all the network devices, to review the configuration of the Windows servers, the policies. The policies are critical. You have a free tool. Microsoft provide a tool that is called Microsoft Baseline Security Toolkit that you can download from the Microsoft webpage, and you can check the policies of your Windows server and your network to see if they are security appropriate. Also, always download the security updates and the patch from the official vendor webpage, never from another web pages, because we cannot be 100% certain that is legitimate software. So always from the proper vendor. Here, let me share with you. I will also recommend to review from time to time the message and alerts that are in the CERTs. CERT is I put here the addresses of the UK, US, and the European Union third. I think it's very important to review the alerts because they inform you about IPs, domains that can be compromised, on how can your network can be compromised. The reports are very detailed and are very good. And I think that's my time already, my 15 minutes. So I don't know if there is any question for me.
For the moment, not. Thank you very much for this very interesting insight and start, especially also with these alert lists here from UK, US, and EU. As you said before, if you have an IT team, that is exactly a thing that might be the case of companies which have maybe more than 20, 30, 50 employees. Many SMEs don't have an IT team. They have only IT consultants. But also in this case, for example, the proposal that you made regarding using certain applications and only original patches, let's say from the producers of your computer system, is a good advice. Thank you very much, Bryce. I would now like to hear exactly regarding the advices to be given to SMEs in that field from Marius Thielmann, which indeed works exactly for that, the small medium-sized enterprises in Germany. Thank you, Mr. Thielmann. The floor is yours.
Yeah, hello everybody. Also, a warm welcome from Germany. I'm now in Saxony at the moment, actually not in Berlin, because I'm traveling with work. And I would like to also share my presentation with you. I hope you all understand me. And 1 second.
We do. Unless you don't speak Saxon.
No, don't worry about that. I'm not from Saxony actually, so I think you see my presentation now. All good? Okay, perfect. Yeah, let me introduce myself just very shortly. I'm a referent for the Transfer Office IT Security for SMEs, well, literally translated. And I'm a mobile consultant, so I travel through Germany and give SMEs advices on how to integrate measures or security measures. Here the focus is very on low threshold, easy to use and practical measures. And why SMEs? You just said it actually before in the introduction. Also the threat from cyber attacks, also despite the war now, is increasingly rising. I have an example here from Germany. Cyber attacks has caused damage to 86% of companies. That was 2019, 70% just. And in the year 2021, it was 220 billion euros of damage. It's also doubled since 2019. Of course, everything is translated into the pandemic and home office measurements. The companies are very fastly have to react very fast and have to take these measures. Obviously, also social engineering is this. Social engineering is rising because of the home office and corona pandemic, and malware, DDoS attacks and spoofing is on the rise. DDoS attacks are intentionally overload of systems the hacker are using. On spoofing is the pretension of somebody else in your company or somebody who has authority to make use of this and get to information. Main drivers of this damage also is the very lucrative kind of blackmailing incidents. This is ransomware. You probably heard it already. Another why SMEs is of course the lack of resources of these companies. They not always have the financial and the human resources to build up their own IT divisions, or also get an external expert. And there's a lack of clarity because there's an overload of offers and possibilities. And this is actually also what we do as a state-funded project. We kind of curate and curate the checklists for companies and small and medium-sized, and exactly so they can have a trustworthy kind of source to increase their IT security measures. I have here a very little short movie. I will fast forward a little bit. It's a showcase like a ransomware attack actually. Like there's different ways like attacks can happen. It's like through USB sticks that are found somewhere and then put into the slots. Also like harmful like websites, web links and email, but also like attachments. Here also very important to mention that Word and macro-driven files are more dangerous. Then here the user is going on a link, message is popping up. You mostly like do not care about it and you click away. And this is how the virus is already on your system. It just has to be activated by opening a file. The user is opening a file. I just fast forward a little bit more. He can open the files. He opens in Paint, and then you see the type and the names are already changed. A pop-up window comes and asks you for money, transfer money. If not, you have all your data stays encrypted. You can't make use of your data anymore. This is like a horror scenario for everybody. And yeah, so as you see, you can do nothing. Also, if you want to change the program, you want to open it, the notepad, you see that the data is encrypted. And this is like one scenario. Of course, like ransomware attacks can go different ways, and like this is just like to sensitize the audience. Yeah, alrighty. Yeah, what kind of consequences you can get out of this is like definitely your own damages from the time you can't fulfill your works anymore. This is like, yeah, because of the process disruption. Then also obviously is the, or not always obviously, but the reputational damages you can get from that is like your customers like don't have the trust anymore in your systems and how you actually save data. And external damages is like that you can't proceed with your stakeholder process anymore you have with deliverers or etc. How can I protect myself? As yeah, I can also just repeat Brais. Regular security updates and patches is very, very important. That's what I mean. Like the time between like the updates are launched and the time that you actually patch the system is very, very important, and the hackers know these kind of security flaws. Also very important is, like, my opinion is to clean out plugins. So like every additional plugin in your web browser which makes it convenient to log in an account is actually a wider threat for your system, like widens up the threat surface. Then obviously activate reliable like antivirus programmers and functional firewalls. Of course, it's not always the 100% safety with just antivirus and firewall. It's all the mixture of these like practical measures. Then avoid storing highly sensitive data in the cloud, especially data you don't use that often. They're really important. So like you should never trust the cloud provider of any measures to take. So like rather create your own measures, like safety measures, and like save the real important data you don't maybe use every day on a separate external hard drive, for example. Data backups, you saw like the data can be encrypted and you can't do anything anymore. Then a backup is like, I mean, the non plus ultra, you have it somewhere and you can always like upload it again on your system. So you don't have to worry to get your data back. This should be like repetitive and frequently. And as I said, also the best way is to go through external. I don't know how much time I have. Yeah, then also very important is the incident response plan. I think it's an emergency plan for who is responsible in emergency cases, for example. Then manage access privileges to the people. So like it's the least privilege, I think. Yeah, least privilege. So like the people who conduct a certain work should also have just access to the data they use for this specific works. And strong password, I can't say it enough times. It's a security flaw which is very used by a lot of like attackers, and you know, like a PC system is only as strong as the weakest part in a chain, and this is the human, and so this is the security breach to the human actually. So strong password is very important, and train, raise awareness, and inform, and this is actually what I do a lot. Yeah, like this is important. You can, as a CEO, you can train your frequently train your employees, of course, but also like trying to inform yourself, like subscribes to newsletters, to blogs, read blogs, be informed, especially now for this vulnerable time with the war, for example. This is very important. I just show some like practical measures here. We also offer in our service, like this is a password card, for example, for the people who actually prefer analog ways to like remember password and maybe not too many passwords. So with the coordinate system, you can create passwords and you just have to use remember like 2 digits. Then we have a password manager, obviously, like this is my way tool to go if I want to save passwords. It should be also like a double proofed with a 2 authentication factor and a master password. The passwords within are encrypted with a very strong system. So that's a very nice, convenient way. Then there are like, we offer also like games, for example, to check the user what phishing mails are and what you should pay attention to in the mail, and it's like a kind of an interactive game, for example. Then okay, it's all in German now, but like I'm pretty sure in English there are also like posters.
Sorry, this slide before the interactive game, so that everybody can use that. You can and you can.
Yeah,
that is in German. Okay.
It's in German. That's the problem. Like I'm just showing like here just some like to inspire a little bit, like what kind of measures are there. I'm pretty sure there are also like these kind of like similar measures in English somewhere. I just didn't do the research yet to like find these. But like
you can train your employees on what
exactly.
is a phishing mail.
Exactly. In a normal presentation, I would also go through this game because it's a very handy tool to like to sensitize yourself and your employees. Yeah, like posters you can just put next to the fire alert plan, for example, just for IT security. Then this kind of website, have I been pwned, is called. I actually put my personal like spam mail in there, and I was pretty sure that I have been pwned, and I was for a data breach.
What is pwned?
Pwned means that you got compromised, like so like that your email address got like compromised by a specific attack group, or like your this case, for example, my email was like used and sold of like a massive data pack from a PDL breach. Not sure about it though. So my email was like sold in some way at some point. Like it's just also like to sensitize yourself, like so like that you see how vast this like IT security world is, and yeah, to sensitize yourself. And then I have just like a few examples of also like free of charge practical IT measures we have, but I'm really sure like there are lots of like also English language measures that are like free security checks there are from the government, maybe also checklists of how to choose a trustworthy IT service provider. Then free first risk assessments by IT experts. They are definitely somewhere. Some free ones, mostly the first consultant hour is for free. I'm very not in my time anymore, but yeah. Then funding programs, IT emergency plans, as I showed before, checklist home office, like what you should like pay attention to in a home office. Then contact registration office, like in Germany, you have an obligation to tell that we got like compromised. Best practice examples. It's always good to sensitize. And then, as I said, also newsletters, blogs, flyers, videos, podcast, apps. For my opinion, I always like keep up to date with podcasts and newsletters I subscribe. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Markus Thielmann of the Transfer Office of IT Security for SMEs in Germany. That was a vast overview, let's say, and as you said, of course, we need to look into the details also of the single cases of companies and how they are organized. And that's also the reason why I would like to invite Alvaro Garcia of the S2 group in Spain to tell us a little bit about his practical experience in assisting SMEs in cybersecurity and what you would advise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for the introduction and for having me here just to share our experience with protecting SMEs. And this is the first thing I would like to say is that in this 10 minutes talk, I will just focus on our vision, our approach, how to protect SMEs, how we see or how to tackle the cybersecurity matter from the SME perspective. We at S2 Grupo, we work with national governments as well as with smaller governmental organizations, and we work with global companies as well as we work with SMEs. And indeed, I'm starting to mention this is because through our experience, we have observed how SMEs and smaller governmental organizations, to some extent, are very similar. For example, when we see certain limitations in terms of budgets or people, overall resources. And later during the talk, I will use this comparison just to show some practical examples how to reuse some examples that could be applied from unsuccessful examples that can be taken from the governmental case to maybe the private organizations. So the important thing here is that SMEs, as any other organization, face a real risk. We all are facing cybersecurity attacks. That's a reality. And the point is to find efficient and effective ways to address. Because I like it very much, the title of today's session. And it starts like, defend your business. We are here to protect our business, to keep running our business in an effective way. We cannot stop producing, we cannot stop, the invoicing processes. So we have to, reduce our risk, also taking into account our volume of business. And because of this, today I just would like to focus in 3 points. First is how to prevent IT security incidents. So we all receive cyber attacks. And indeed, the question is not if we are going to suffer IT security incident, but when we are going to suffer it. So the first point is how to prevent it. Second thing, as I said before, we are going to suffer it at some point or another. So we have to be ready to manage it. And the third point here that I would like to mention is human risk management. Marius also said in his talk about the risk of that the people we all introduce into the organization. And indeed, since 90% of incidents comes through the source of a human error, I think it's very important to address it here today. So for the first thing, I like it very much, Brian's talk today, because he was focusing a lot into prevention, into configuration review, into what else? Into using the best practices to have all our infrastructure, all our IT software and hardware well configured, well patched. And that is what I consider hygiene. So having correct hygiene is very, very important to minimize. And I cannot stress enough how through very simple steps we can minimize the risk we are facing. And taking also Brian's talk, in prevention, as he recommended, is very important to have periodic security assessment. And here, what we do with SMEs, as well as other organizations, is to do a security assessment where we have the picture of how the organization is, so we understand the as-is towards cybersecurity or IT security. And then we draft a prioritized plan for mitigation and improving that security stance where the organization is comfortable, their risk appetite is comfortable with, and also the resources match what is needed. Because one thing we have to have very clear is that we cannot assure 100% of IT security. That is not realistic, just by definition, because there are zero-day constantly, plus it would be very, very expensive. So that's the very first thing, to focus in prevention through annual security assessment, and also applying the improvement, the prioritized improvement plan. The second thing is how we handle security incidents. Okay, once we receive the cyber attack, at some point we will be compromised how we react. And both Brias and Marius mentioned that it's very important to have an incident response plan, because the worst time to start thinking what we should do when we have an incident is when we are having it, when we are very nervous, when all our, for example, if we are facing ransomware, when all our computers and data are encrypted, or when all our production line is stopped. So that is the worst case scenario. And what we recommend and what we work with organizations is to create that incident response plan, focusing both in people, in processes, and technology, to know what to do when it will happen. We also perform incident preparedness assessment. Let's say the organization understand that they're prepared, but they want to double check, to really ensure if, for example, Marius mentioned to have external backups. They want to be very sure that if a ransomware attack happens, if actually those backup copies could be restored, how easy or not would be to come back to the situation before the attack, or actually if the backups will be cipher, they will be encrypted again together with the attack. And this is, even though it seems like very improbable, I can tell you that these exercises are very important. And also checking if everybody in the organization that have a role in the incident response plan know what to do. This is also very, very important. One of the things that creates a difference once we have an incident is to really detect it in the early stages. That's why one of the services we provide is continuous managed monitoring, detection, and response. And it may seem in some cases for some smaller companies that this could be out of reach because of maybe budget. But here I would like to translate some successful cases from the governmental environment when smaller organizations gather together through, for example, regional government, and they provide this kind of services in a grouped way. For example, they can have a framework contract for incident response in a group way where they can manage the cost and distribute the cost and be better prepared in case an incident happens. And the third pillar here today I wanted to mention is to manage the human risk. And as Mario said, it's very, very important to create awareness and train to the people in our organization to really understand where the risk comes from. This, I always put a very simple example when, and those who have kids have done it at home. For example, when you have a small child, you teach them that they should not open the door to strangers. That is kind of obvious. But what is not obvious is that a 2-3 years old child would know by themselves that that is bad, that a risk, a threat could be behind, or that in the park they cannot go with whoever, some stranger, because there is a risk. So we also have the responsibility to educate and to constantly create awareness within the people in our organization to avoid this kind of incidents. And with these simple tasks and activities, as Mario was saying, we can really avoid and minimize the cases of impacts. Just as a conclusion of my talk, I just would like to summarize that the risk is real and that there are solutions within the SMEs means to address it and to minimize, to avoid any kind of impact in the business. So we protect our business and we keep running our business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvaro, for these explanations. And that is indeed, let's say, the idea that we had today to defend our business, to protect it from attacks. And it is not an optional anymore. It is not an optional anymore. We must definitely make sure that SMEs also take cybersecurity into serious account. I would like to ask now to our guests, the participants, if they want to ask questions to Alvaro Garcia or to Mario Stielman, or also Bryce Cortinas, which have now presented their experience, their advices, and their ideas. If there are any kind of questions, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. So maybe I open the round. Maybe people are shy. I would say I have a question to Mario Stielman. You had said before that we should use only trusted antivirus programs. Yeah? Here's an issue with one antivirus program which has a good reputation, or had at least until lately. That is Kaspersky. Maybe more for Mac users than for others. I use Mac. But I heard now that it is not excluded that Kaspersky could be abused, let's say, by state-owned, by state institutions. What would you say? Is Kaspersky still a trusted antivirus producer, or better to avoid now?
I would say, yeah. I mean,
their servers are in Russia.
What's that?
Their servers are in Russia, no?
Exactly, it's a Russian company, and they're also like based in all their, they're based in Russia. It's also very very interesting because I mean there are also families based there, and of course there's a threat of like that Russia like pushes the company to to do certain things they should not do, and they're actually not claiming to do this stuff, obviously. So yeah, I mean, at the end, like, it's a decision of your own, but like, in my opinion, I would go in the safe lane, and I would change my antivirus program to something else, at least for the time. That's, yeah, that would be my suggestion. But like, I cannot go very deeper into that, like, because yeah, it's a very sensitive topic in general to reach that. But like, this is also what the BSI, like the
German cybersecurity agency, yeah,
exactly, like, also says, like, they recommend to also like deinstall these systems, like Russian systems, because they can be compromised. I mean, also, if the people working at this organization put into pressure of like authorities like in Russia, then it can be dangerous. So the threat is always there. So you should, yeah, take measures against that, maybe.
And the same, yeah, Nikola Tomic, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikola. I work for a SME that is investigating cyber crime and cybersecurity in cooperation with law enforcement agencies as part of an EU project called Cyberspace. And we have been, of course, very careful about the Russian situation, and we were told to be extra vigilant even within our own project, because we might get some kind of cyber warfare going on against anyone, any law enforcement agency or project linked to them. But what I was wondering is, are kind of cybersecurity consultants and governments and LEAs actively suppressing the possibility for cyber threats, not just against SMEs, but also public bodies? Is there any way that sort of European governments and LEAs can intensify the counterattacks or you know, the counter defense against cyber attacks?
You mean active
Active defense?
Defense. Maybe this question goes maybe best to Bryce. What would be your opinion on that?
Well, it's difficult to say, because first, is the most difficult. One of the most difficult things in cybersecurity is to identify the origin of the attack. You suspect, but you don't have 100% certain what's the origin of the attack. So, but I think that question is more for international law, but I don't know if there is any international law agreement in cybersecurity response to what happened in your attack. I think there was out of debate inside the European Union about this, about what is legal and not legal to do in case your company or your country is attacked. But one of the problems, I think, is to identify, you suspect, but you are never 100% certain who is behind an attack.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Bryce. Another question? Mrs. Kverer? Or anybody else? Yeah, then I would say we leave it with the questions here. And as we said before, we definitely need to invest in skills and in training of our employees, because we understood also from the intervention from Mr. Garcia, Alvaro Garcia, that indeed the biggest security risk is human behavior, are the employees, are the owners of the companies themselves that misunderstand communications that they receive, often via email. Maybe that the so-called spoofing, that there is a sender that pretends to be the boss or the director or something, and asks for actions which should not be done. Or also the phishing, the usual problem with sharing identities and passwords online thanks to, let's say, a scam email where you are led to some website, or also the annexes of an email that you open them, which you should not open. All these things here are not only the basic points, but then there are many others. And indeed, we as European entrepreneurs, together with our strong partner BMW in Germany, have tried to put together these sources of risk and some information how to learn how to treat that. Mark Dönges of BMW, could you please present them a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Stefan. Let me just share my screen. 1 second. You should be seeing this now. Yes, also very welcome from me. My name is Mark Dönges from BMW. We have been working together with CEA-PME already for, I think, about 2.5 years on this project, Data Skills for SMEs, where we basically want to support small and mid-sized enterprises in their digital skills. Maybe first of all, who are the partners in this project? It is led by European Entrepreneurs. We have also the University of Rome on board and 3 SME associations: BMW from Germany, Confapi from Italy, and ÖGV from Austria. And Stefan has already mentioned it. Basically, our goal is to promote digital skills in small and medium-sized enterprises via some practice-focused online orientation courses that we have been producing. We already have one pilot course online, which is about online sales and digital marketing. Actually today we are starting with the second one, which is cybersecurity. It is online starting today. And we will also be putting online a course on paperless office and CRM systems. And all of these courses, as we are a very international consortium as well, are available in English, German, and Italian. So maybe just briefly for the context of this project, we also did a little needs analysis when we started. This was in 2020, where we basically found out, yes, SMEs are ready to invest in digitalization and in adapting also new technologies, but there are some very important barriers for digitization, which is not only the lack of knowledge, but also lack of time and costs of external agencies. And here is also where we want to dig in, basically, to help put together what is already out there and create SME-focused orientation courses by putting these materials, hand-picked materials together. We got a lot of input for many different topics. There are lots of needs actually in SMEs. And the topics that we picked, I already mentioned it. It's about e-commerce, now cybersecurity, and also CRM and paperless office. Yes, and exactly, we still have more than 60% of SMEs that say they are either intermediate or worse in the self-assessment of the digital competencies. So this is exactly where we want to come in. Now we have produced this course, this orientation course on cybersecurity, and I have and want to share also a little teaser video. Let me just change the screen for a second. You should be seeing it now. It is only 1.5 minutes, so I'm going to press play.
Whether it's through efficient processes, saved resources, or new business ideas, digitalization offers numerous opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises. But consistent IT security is essential. This not only guarantees the availability of your data, but also ensures that only authorized persons have access to the data and can change it. Digital blackmail attempts are becoming more frequent, more professional, and more multifaceted. But small to medium-sized enterprises do not have to be defenseless. Damage can be avoided by taking small steps and putting in a little effort. First, raise your team's awareness of IT attacks, as many incidents are caused by employees' lack of caution. Second, quantify your need for protection. Is business-relevant data at risk? An efficient IT security strategy starts with taking an inventory. Third, create an IT emergency plan. In the event of an attack, you must act quickly and have clear responsibilities. Which measures have priority? How should I begin? And where can I find support? All these questions are answered by Data Skills for SMEs free IT security orientation course. Use our hand-picked learning materials and find suitable support services. For more information, visit our website.
Yes, let me get back to my presentation. Exactly, this was a little teaser video in order to also promote the course. We have it now online on our website. It looks more or less like this. If you enter our website, I will also be posting the direct link to the landing page. We have here basically set up a structure and also worked with other experts and other points of contact. Also for the German course, for example, we have included many materials also from the TSIM, the transfer point for IT security. We have worked with the competence centers of the initiative Mittelstand Digital to gather various resources. And also, of course, the BSI, the National Agency for Cybersecurity, they also have lots and lots of materials that we also handpicked and put into this course structure. So what you can see here is basically the 5 different pillars this course is having. We have an introduction, we have problems focused on human factors, so also risks that can be avoided by sensitization. We have the whole topic of preparing for IT emergencies, also setting up emergency action plans. So what do I have to do when actually something happens? How do I set up such a plan? And also the division between what I have to focus on cybersecurity in the office and what to focus on maybe in the home office. So if you get into one of these pillars, you can also, you see the sub-contents that are listed here. You can also log in to enroll in a course, and then you see also the how much you have advanced in each course. Of course, all of these courses are for free. We have touched many topics here. I've already mentioned it. So for example, what is a phishing attack and what are maybe the easiest steps on avoiding them and on how to recognize social engineering if the social engineering email reaches you. Those are really, in my opinion, quick wins. If you are able to sensitize your team, then you have improved your security by a lot and did not need to invest lots of resources, money and time. Also the topic of pen test, penetration testing to find out what are weak points in your systems, what is ransomware, how to really use passwords. The colleague from TSIM already mentioned all these topics basically. And we also have included many materials from TSIM also for the German course. So yeah, this is it basically. This is my invitation and call to action basically. This is the link in order to reach this course. And I just wanted to invite you to check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark Dönges of BVMW. I think this offer is especially interesting because it is made by SME associations for SMEs. So we help here, let's say, our member companies to get oriented. We will also list on that website step by step always more experts that are available to coach and train and assist SMEs in solving their technical problems in the field of IT security. Of course, that depends also on the language that they can offer. So, Mr. Garcia, if you are interested, come back to us. We would maybe decide to list you also here. Because it is also necessary, of course, that the companies then get a little bit a referral from us about who can really help them in the most equitable and correct way. Of course, that has to be paid, cannot be for free. But the basic starting points are here to get put together, and that will also regard other topics like Mark already said, paperless office and cloud and customer relationship management, as well as we had already before online marketing, which was very important during the coronavirus pandemic at the beginning when all the shops were locked down. It is already 6 minutes after 3. We should have finished at 3 o'clock. Is there any other last question? No. And I would like to just close with a short. Please. Yeah.
Sure. One quick thing. When we're talking about cloud,
yeah,
the SMEs need to be assured that the cloud services comply with the European GDPR law, because depending on when the servers are located, and if the country and the servers where they are located, if they are outside the European Union, they need to make sure that they comply with GDPR law, because sometimes we found cheap solutions for cloud backup outside the European Union, but you need to be aware that GDPR applies. And it's very important to check if the services we're using are comply with the European law.
Yeah,
thank you.
That our participant Nicola Tomic also advises in the chat that this regards also the Microsoft servers, which, if I understand well, are not always on the in Europe, or let's say they are mainly outside Europe. Is that correct, Mr. Tomic?
As far as I was told, Teams, if you share data over Teams, which then links to SharePoint, those would not be GDPR compliant. So we are struggling to find good clouds, secure clouds within the EU. I'm sure there's some out there, but it requires a bit of digging.
Yeah, that's funny that you tell that, because I was participating this morning to an event organized by the Director General of the European Commission on Trade, and it was a Teams meeting, and I struggled hard to get in until I found out I had to register, but I didn't normally register to these meetings. And it is exactly the European Commission that uses Teams for all the meetings. But okay, European Entrepreneurs has made available this webinar also through its company B2B platform, which is this year still for free due to the crisis situation. It is called SME2B. You have seen it most probably when you have registered. I would like to simply share a second with you the features of that platform, because you can use it now also as participants to get in contact with other participants. Once you have logged in, of course, you can find here a list on the participants of all the people that are registered now, already over 500, and not only from Europe, of course, also from outside of Europe. We have very good business contacts also with Africa. And once you find somebody that you would like to talk with, for example, let's say we'll make one here, Mrs. Sommer. You can see her profile. You can see the profile of her company. Maybe she's there today, Mrs. Sommer, because I see that Blue 5 Labs.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am indeed. Yes. Nice to meet you all.
So by chance, I got the right one. I could ask you here if I would like to a meeting, let's say for some kind of moment and day. And if she would then accept it, I would find it here under meetings in the list of accepted meetings. Yeah? And we could do directly inside this platform a one-to-one video meeting, or also up to 6 people involving them in that platform. In addition to that, of each company, you can find also their offers and projects and products and services on the marketplace, and get directly in contact with them about products that you would like to buy or services that you would like to team up with in order to sell maybe together, and so on and so forth. So the research service also is very effective. You simply choose the company that the country maybe with which you would like to interact, for example, here Italy, and you find the people, and then you can also choose the organization type or the areas of activity, for example, in the field of communication, and so on and so forth. I don't want to bore you. Please click a little bit through that platform until it is still free, and see if it can be helpful to do your cross-border business in Europe and beyond. And with that said, I would like to thank all my guests today, the speakers, Alvaro Garcia, Marc Dönges, Bryce Cortinas, and Markus Thielmann, which unfortunately had already left us because he had to go to another meeting, but also to the guests that are still here, Nikola Tomic, especially, who intervened. And I would also invite everybody to go to the survey that he has posted in the chat here on cyberspace security of the European Union, in order to understand better to which extent we have cyber attacks in Europe, and to post here also your concerns. I thank you very much for your patience, and invite you to follow also the next SME Crisis Response webinar on April 28th on high energy costs and how to instantly and in a smart way reduce them, not only by saving energy, but also by managing it better. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.